Divorce Dad Diaries, day 306, and I'm going to be painting my coffee table. So I mentioned a few videos ago that I dislike the colour. It's like a burnt orange mahogany that really just clashes with the rug and doesn't quite bring the room together. So I really want to paint it, but I also don't want to just paint it like a plain white. You know, I'm sick of the millennial minimalism. She sells seashells on the seashore. I wish for an Irish wristwatch. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Millennial minimalism. There we go. Got it. The point that I'm trying to get to is that I wanted to bring more colour into, really clash even further and really overstimulate the eyes. But before I do that, I need to sand just to make sure that the paint is going to stick. Now, these inner two layers, I'm not as concerned about. All the inside of the legs, it's mostly just about getting this one mostly sanded. Now, the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, the top of the coffee table is really the only layer that gets any use. In fact, if I want to hide anything from the kids, all I got to do is put it on one of the bottom two shelves and suddenly it just stops existing. The other reason is that I find sanding monotonous and I can't be bothered doing it properly, so I just really wanted to rough up the edges. Let's be real, the coffee table cost me like $5. It's someone's backyard project that they made out of like a pallet, and then I've gone and picked it up from the second-hand shop. But when I was fixing the top, I also broke it a little bit, so I needed to grab some wood filler. Trip number 1 to Mitre 10, remember that. So I've never actually used this stuff before, but I'm assuming it's just like plaster, and I just kind of put it on. Seems to be the case. It's pretty much the case. Slap it on with one of these knife things. I don't know what it's called. But just fill the holes, wait for it to dry overnight, and then sand it and call it a day. Now, next up, I want to do a prep coat. So I have this paint here. I'm not actually sure what colour it is. All I know for a fact is that it's the same colour as my boy's bedroom back at the previous rental that I lived at. So I'm going to do a coat of this to prepare for the final coats. And if you're curious at this point why it is that I have a colour that happens to match the boys' bedroom at the previous house I lived at, well, it's entirely possible that when I was taking the bunk beds apart that I damaged the wall in a few places. It's also entirely possible that I took a strip of the the paint, went down to Mitre 10, got it colour matched, bought a roller, came back, filled up the gaps, painted it, and then got my bond back, and nobody said anything. And to this day, it's been a couple of months and still nobody said anything. So I'd say I did a pretty good job of allegedly fixing those holes in the wall. You can't prove I did. Regardless, I've got this cheap brush and I just haphazardly slapped some paint on. Top layer, middle layer, bottom layer. Made sure to do the insides of the legs and a couple of the inside layers as well. All in preparation for what our final colours are going to be. And that's important because there's not just going to be one colour, there's going to be 4. So here we are. I'm taking the kids down to Mitre 10, second trip, and we're picking up some colours. So what I did is I took them to the colour swath section. They got to have a look at the colours and see which ones they liked. And then all 4 of them picked out their own colour. Rosine they have this test pot wall where it's got all the colours and all the different test pots. So effectively we picked out the colours, find the matching test pot, and you're good to go. So I got one for each of the 4 kids, as well as their own, not toothbrush, that's what I wanted to say, paintbrush each. So we've got our colours, table is prepped. Next thing to figure out is how the hell we're actually going to paint it. So I sat all my kids down together and said, kids, your mum and I are still divorced, but also we need to paint this coffee table. So we had a bit of a discussion, and Lola, always the ideas person, suggested that we paint a pattern on each of the layers, as well as take a leg each. There's 4 legs, 4 kids, it all works up. So what I ended up doing is just sort of imagining some very basic patterns, ones that are easy for my kids to draw in straight lines, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, I realised during this process that I don't have a ruler. Put it on the list. So I ended up using the measuring snail. What do you call this thing? The thing that measures, and it's a measuring snail. I used the measuring snail to evenly measure out some lines on the top layer, some triangle patterns on the middle layer, and some squares on the bottom layer. And as a stand-in for my ruler, I used the Jumanji, as well as a paint swatch. By the way, the colours were picked were Reef for green, Shakespeare for blue, Ballerina for pink, and Moody Blue for purple. I then, one by one, got the kids to paint their sections. So I started with youngest through to oldest. I figured doing it this way, the youngest are going to be the messiest, so they can sort of, if they're a bit messy, that's fine because the older kids can come in and try and cut in around where the younger kids have started. And effectively, that meant Casper set the trends because he did his first section and everyone else effectively just copied what he did. He really is well loved by his siblings, not just by his parents, because everyone saw what he did and went, yes, Caspy's done a great job. Let's just copy exactly what he did. I made sure they were all in like old clothes too, clothes that they didn't like, clothes that were too small, that sort of thing. So if they got paint on themselves, it wasn't a big deal. After each of them had done their layer, I waited an hour and then just did a second coat to just try and fill in some of the gaps. I was pretty rough with my second coats. I really wanted to capture the texture, the way they've painted it, the imperfections. I did not want this to look perfect, did not want it to look like I'd helped, just wanted to make sure that we got a full coverage. So I'm not sanding it, I'm not evening it out. However, I do have, let's say I am prone to spilling my drink. Probably an ADHD thing, it's clumsiness. So from here, I've been told that acrylic paint is kind of waterproof and you don't need to cover it, but I'm going the extra layer. We're popping over to BP and then popping over to Mitre 10 for the third time to pick up some varnish. So it's been a couple of hours, all the paint layers have dried. I've picked up this water-based varnish. Now, I've never actually used this stuff before, but it says on the tin what you need to do. You effectively just slap it on, wait till it dries, give it a light sand, then slap some more on. Seems pretty easy peasy to me. But I also can't wait to just have my coffee table back, because I tell you what, this has actually taken like weeks. I started this on last week when I didn't have the kids, the last weekend, because of having to wait for their paint to dry before the next kid can come along. It's taken days to get all their paint coverage done, and all of this has just really taught me how much I like my little coffee table. I want it back. But we're almost there, so let's cue some music and do a bit of a reveal, shall we?
Kiss me beneath the milky twilight, lead me out on the moonlit floor.
Okay, so technically it's not actually done yet. With the storms hitting overnight, it's got all humid and cold, and it's probably going to take a couple days for the varnish to actually dry properly. But I'm actually very happy with how it's turned out, and the kids have loved it. That's the most important part. They see it. I think my oldest daughter said it looks professional. And I think they're all very excited to get it out into the lounge so they can use it as well. But also, if you're being hit by this storm, stay safe. I see it's a state of emergency in a few places in New Zealand at the moment, so I hope you're doing okay. Otherwise, I will catch you on the flip side.